That was weird, dude. You said 3, 2, 1, and you were frozen in my screen.
Perfect.
I'm like, uh-oh.
Yeah. Welcome to episode 3 of A Little Bit of R&R with Russ and Russ. We've had some technical difficulties, to say the least. It's been fascinating. Lord. Yeah, just camera doesn't work, mic doesn't work, link won't work. Just God only knows.
3 for 3.
Well,
exactly.
It's hilarious too because I've been dealing with a little bit of a stomach bug, so I'm tired. I'm like, I don't want to be dealing with any of this right now.
Exactly.
I got stuff.
And so I'm like, you can't see the whole shirt, but this is not the Atlanta Falcons. This is actually Fountain Hills, Arizona Falcons. So, people may not remember, but one of my, my very short stint in 2019 as a 5th and 6th grade football coach when we went over. But now it's my paint shirt. I've been trying to. This is terrible. Russ knows this one. I've been trying to finish a bookcase that I started in June. Now, hey, I was a full-time employee until November, so it was like when you on the weekends and anyway. So I've been on it full. So I've been painting for 2 days, and we're getting so close that I just want the thing to be done. So yeah, so I just spent 3 hours painting. And some of it is on my shirt, so I thought I'd wear my Falcon shirt.
Oh, I hate painting. I hate painting so much.
Yeah,
I'll do anything to avoid painting.
So the funny part about this one is, since I built it, right? So I think we talk a lot about one thing leads to another. You start one thing, and then the next thing you know. So just for everybody's edification, I painted and I got done real quick. So I'm like, well, I got a couple hours to do some yard work so that I don't. So that doesn't move to another day. So I go out and I have built a tool shed. It's pretty tight. It fits in kind of this narrow spot. And I go to pull it out, and the wheel just goes whoop, and folds up. And now it's stuck halfway out, right? It's stuck, right? Everybody that's watching this or ever watches it, so I get a flashlight and I look underneath, and sure enough, man, it was plastic, and it was I told Russ it was a kind of a reclaimed wheels on a previous gizmo that I had, and I wanted to save money. So yesterday,
that actually surprised me. I would have assumed you just would have sprung for the wheels.
Well, the ones that they were rubberized and they were on plastic, and I didn't realize the plastic was obviously aged. But it was rubberized, and I'm rolling it over these pavers that are not flat; they're rounded pavers. So it goes thump, 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 right? So I thought rubberized would be better than like a hard plastic. Anyway, so yesterday I had to literally replace 4 wheels on the tool shed to even get to what I wanted to do, which I never got to. So same thing with all of our fun, with all of our high-tech devices.
Listen,
it'd be better to just probably be better to ham radio.
Gosh, sometimes, man.
Oh,
especially the extent of my mechanical ability, and actually, I need to turn my desk because my projects are all magic cards. But we had to fix a stupid curtain rod that my son pulled out of the wall because I was like, I don't need. I had the crappy anchor, the plastic one.
Right.
But I went to Home Depot, found screws half the size, put in the big, thick metal anchor, so that thing ain't going anywhere unless he pulls it off the wall, which...
Exactly.
I can see.
Industrial strength, right? He's hanging on it. He's climbing the wall with it.
Well, he had it for 2 days, and he drew a smiley face on the other.
These people, that anybody that watches this, do not know the capabilities of my grandson, Tim. I'm pretty sure he could be on the roof. If he could figure it out, he would literally figure out a way to be on the roof.
His last words are going to be, "Watch this."
Hold my beer.
Well, and it's actually funny. I love that.
Watch this!
Because honestly, I feel like this weekend, or last weekend, we had Cleveland come out and get blown out, and Dallas say, "Hold my beer. We can one-up you." Because... I had to ask because we had a show on Tuesday.
Weird is I got to watch both games, which I normally, for whatever reasons, I got projects, whatever I can't, and I got to watch most of both games.
Which I tried to share YouTube with you, and that did not work.
No, that did not work. But so the Cleveland game first. Hey, look, I was kind of pulling for Flacco.
It's a good story.
I'm kind of, and you had said hey, Cleveland's defense is freaking top notch, right? Well, you and I may not have
Little
known
did
this,
we
they're
know.
top notch at home. Right?
Totally missed that.
They basically gave up 37 points, and they gave up. I don't remember how bad it was, but they gave up a bunch.
It was pretty close to the Dallas score.
Yeah, and you know what? And look, I am a big fan of CJ for so many reasons. So many reasons for Stroud. He's a rookie. He's
45 to 14.
Looks like you said what?
45 to 14.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. And here's the funny part, right? You said on one of our discussions, you said, "Hey, Ravens are playing with house money." I would disagree and say I think CJ is playing with house money.
They're saying the same thing.
He doesn't look like there's a stress in his psyche. It was like, "Hey, we're going to go out in the backyard and play some football. You want to come? We're going to put up 45 on Cleveland, right?" And then of course Flacco helps him with a couple of picks, one of which was the saddest pick six. Dude, that is something I would have thrown.
But you know what's really cool? There's a fantastic clip, and I'm not even going to touch clips.
How he did it, right?
I'm not even going to touch clips because that keeps breaking cameras. I'm going to test that over the weekend. But
phenomenal clip.
Literally walks his linebacker through. Hey, when he does this, you sit here and predicts the pick. It's a phenomenal. I recommend anybody. Which I forgot to attach that 13-minute video. I need to go back and do that.
Yeah, so a little bit of history. I loved playing linebacker. Absolutely loved it. I loved hitting people. And I had a number of picks. I had a number of tackles for loss. I had and this is all before this is all before this is all Pee-wee in high school. And if you get a quarterback like Flacco that literally just zones in on the receiver, and the guy's 2 feet from you, if you don't pick it, you shouldn't be a middle line or one of the now everybody's playing a
the pick six on Dak was a safety.
Oh Lord! I mean, he says, please throw it here.
It was basically the same thing, honestly. Both in breaking routes, read the wrong side, threw it into the chest of the defender.
Yep. And so the other thing that I would say, CJ just looked so relaxed, but those dudes were wide open.
Just don't miss.
I don't know that he had to thread the needle on almost anything. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Did they not watch film on Houston? Because anyway, and so
that actually really threw me off. The fact, and I had to ask Rob this, is like Cleveland and Dallas are not rookie teams.
No,
they're both.
By the way, Dallas' defense was actually ranked pretty dang well this year. Dan Quinn had got him ready to play. And by the way, if that was his resume to try to get the next job.
Well, I didn't know this.
That was egg laying in front of the Green Bay Packers.
Well, and what
Green Bay Packers were what? What was the record?
9-8.
Come on, guys. This isn't the NFC Championship game. This is the 9-8 wild card team that was second to Detroit, who almost backed into the division. I am rooting for Detroit, but beyond that, right?
Well, I'm trying to find it I'm so annoyed because what blew my mind was how little Dan Quinn disguises his defense and how bad the way they were nickel for most of the game against the Packers. Yeah. They never tried 5-man fronts. They did nothing to even slow them down. They had
at least Cleveland
coverage.
Cleveland put men in the box trying to stop. They at least looked like they were trying. It didn't work, okay? But they at least looked like they said, "Holy smoke, this is not working. We need to get after that young man in the backfield." And I'm sorry, I haven't watched many Houston games this year. He did not look like he was rattled one iota. And then obviously Love's got a cannon for an arm. That always helps, right? You still got to read the D. You can still throw it on a missile to the wrong guy, right?
Right.
But it just both teams. Here's what I think. This is going to sound terrible. It looks like both teams, one, were outcoached, absolutely. Two, they were not ready.
No.
And I'm like, this is the show. This is why you play those other games. This is the whole reason for the season. And you guys literally show up and lay an egg. I mean, just bomb. Dak got into a conference and said, I sucked. Okay, Dak, that's great.
Yeah.
But,
cool.
You're getting millions of dollars, man, and you sucked. Anyway.
It really blew my mind. I had to ask Rob, how do you tell nerves versus preparation? Because the fact that 2 rookie QBs look so ready to go and 2 veteran QBs not only didn't, but were throwing bad interceptions. Now, and this is, I get we're playing the Packers, but what I saw a lot from Love is he's not a very good anticipatory thrower. There's a lot off the back foot. He can move around and make time, but right now he's relying on his arm to get the ball there, which it can.
Yeah.
And instead of being like, okay, I need to be ready
what's
for when
funny
he
is
breaks.
I didn't realize he had that arm, right? I knew that he'd be replaced.
I don't watch him enough. That's where I realized, okay, this is pretty fun to watch.
Yeah. But once again, it still looked like, one, he's throwing to wide open people, right? Which is coaching.
Right.
Absolute coaching, right? You got your people in the right place to be successful. And then the flip side is, how can Flacco and Dak look that bad?
Well, see, and that's the thing is people forget when Flacco won the Super Bowl against us. We talked about it. There was a lot of I'm throwing up a prayer.
Well, dude, there's one, and I will never. It was a moon. I don't even know who he was throwing to, and how the Niners didn't pick it. I have no idea. It ended up being a touchdown, as I remember. But I mean, it looked like a punt. It was so moonshot. I just remember that, and that was the weird with the power outage, and it seemed. We all said it seemed rigged, but anyway.
It was a weird game, but then if you look at Dallas, Dak's never been good in the playoffs. He has one good game.
Well, yeah.
One good game against Tampa where they were basically like a 10. I don't know if they're a 10-point favorite, but everybody just expected them to blow out Tampa because Tampa barely got in.
Right.
So, and not to jump around a little bit, but that's why I was so surprised that I still saw McCarthy having a job because there's never been a sign of improvement.
Yeah. Well, look, I don't. So to juxtaposition. So you look at Dallas versus Eagles, and as I think it was either the week after the Niners game or the next week where they lost the one after the Niners game, and a couple of the talking heads were going, "Is Sirianni's job on the line?" And everybody, no. And I remember there was 3 people. One of them's a woman, 2 black guys and this lady. And
it's probably from Speak because it's Joy Taylor.
And they were doing a great job.
Joe and Shady.
But that was one of the questions they had, and I only watched it on YouTube, of course. And of course I'm sitting here going, what? Why in the world? Well, it is Philly. Let's
True.
Anyway, the Philly fan is, for those that don't get fandom in the West compared to Philadelphia. I mean, they make Yankees look like school children.
They booed the Eagles at halftime against the Niners.
Yeah. So
and they were 10-1 at the time.
Yeah, and they were. So anyway, they were talking about. I saw clips talking about now is Sirianni's job in the line, and I happened to be looking at all the coaching openings, and one of the comments was all of the assistant coach openings. To get rid of the offensive coordinator, they're doing this, they're doing that, and I'm thinking, what? Right? My challenge with both of those, Eagles, Dallas, for the team to be ready mentally, in my opinion, starts with the head coach.
Agreed.
And if he, as much as I liked what DeBoer did with the Huskies, Penix wasn't ready.
Then he never got him back to ready, right?
Nope.
He never, dude.
And if anybody watched the Huskies all year, that was not their MO. He always got one to ready. Yes, they had to throw for their life because their defense wasn't that great. I get all that. By the way, at the time, the defense had stopped the bleeding. They were down by 2 scores. They were only down by 1 score at half and 1 score through most of the third quarter. Anyway, my point being, and then he gets the Alabama gig.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Yeah, I get it that overall he went in and just literally took the Huskies, which nobody gives a prayer to the Pacific Northwest. They're not going to get good people, blah blah blah, and takes them to the national championship game. Whether they're embarrassed or not, he got them there, and that's a big deal. And then 5 days later, he's at Alabama, which is one of the top 3 places a coach would want to be in the world, other than having to follow the legend, right?
Well, in a weird way, was it DeBauer?
I think it is.
It's tough to pronounce. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He's coming in as an offensive guy, not a defensive guy. So in a good way, he's following him, not quite the same lane. But what's going to be interesting, and where football's really hard, is figuring out how much is the player versus the coach, right? Because Shanahan obviously made Jimmy G look really, really good.
Yep.
So Jimmy obviously has a much lower ceiling than what Shanahan showed. So now the question is, did Penix make DeBauer, or did DeBauer make Penix?
Yes,
or is it
exactly.
a little bit 50-50?
No. Because we've seen it both ways, right? We said, it's Belichick Brady. And then Brady goes at 42 years old and takes, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And still does what Brady did, right? Joe Montana, Bill Walsh, right? Who made in heaven? Bill's gone. Now it's, and I just blanked on his name. Seifert, the defensive coordinator, right? They still won a Super Bowl, right? Then he gets hurt, never plays another down, goes to Kansas City and gets into the AFC Championship game. So apparently, Joe was pretty good without his coach, and so was Brady. And we've seen that happen with others. But we've also seen it with them not with their coach. So I'll give you an example. Russ Wilson, who I love Russ, right? Regardless of the problems he's had. He had a bunch of different offensive coordinators in Seattle, still was pretty dang good for almost all of his career, doing things that everybody said future Hall of Famer at one point, right? He goes to Denver. Obviously, whatever's wrong, whether it's him or the offense or the OC or the head coach, it ain't working.
Right.
Whatever, right? So now was it Pete that was so good in keeping that whole team floating, right? With the same rah-rah mindset and the way he does his stuff and players love him, blah, blah, blah. Or was it something else? Right?
Well, it
now,
makes you wonder, you have
right.
unrealistic expectations of what that quarterback can do. Because I think that causes some of these problems. Like,
we'll see.
Have
right?
Josh
Russell
Allen
goes
throw
somewhere
40
else. Right? We'll know for sure.
True.
Pretty quick.
Well, he's a little old, so it's this like.
But
it's tough.
His key to fame was not necessarily I'm going to run down the field and do that. He still has an arm.
So
we'll see. All I'm saying is we'll see. Mr. 42-year-old Mr. Brady proved to everybody that, even at 42 years old, he was ridiculous.
Well, and what I love about the Brady argument is because, and it kind of what frustrates me a little bit about how people treat Purdy right now, is there's certain things that age well with you. Brady's legs were shot by the end of his career, but his brain was still
much of a runner to start with. But
and Peyton watching them run was just like, oh, good Lord.
Looks like the guy from Michigan when he got tripped.
Oh my gosh, which is a bad start if you're McCarthy.
that
you look like 42-year-old Brady. Yeah, but exactly. The things that age well with you are your brain, your ability to read defenses, even if the zip's not on the ball,
and the leadership.
Right. Now the problem.
Everybody gets in the huddle with Peyton Manning. They're like, "Hey, look, this guy's going to take us down the field, and we're going to win."
Right. Peyton, Brady, Mahomes, and actually even told Rob.
Montana. Right?
I even told Rob this. The frustrating part for me when people evaluate Mahomes is they're like, "Well, he could be falling down and throw it 40 yards." It's like, no. What makes Mahomes great is his ability to read defenses, be able to fit the ball in a tight spot. The things that age really well. Cam Newton didn't age well because a lot of what he's able to create was based off athletic gifts. So I'm curious with Russ because how much has he lost? Because he's never been Mr. Anticipatory Thrower. He's never been Mr. Read Defenses. He's a little bit of a deep ball guy. He likes to extend plays. So Denver is a tough situation because I think they looked at him a little bit like Buffalo looks at Josh Allen of like, well, you're just going to fix all our problems. Well, not only is that unreasonable, because Rob pointed it out, they started running the ball. Josh Allen started playing well. Jordan Love started playing well as soon as they started running the ball. It's the forgotten part of the offense is you just can't say throw it 40 times. That's not that's not a recipe for success.
Yeah, I don't care who you are. Even Peyton backing up with no run game.
Won a Super Bowl with no arm
the whole time. Yeah. Oh Lord, it was not good. His neck.
Yeah.
Well, because we saw the year that he had every record under the sun, they lost to the Seahawks, and he looked pedestrian.
Yep.
Right. Which, two things. One, I struggle to believe the Seahawks defense was that good. I've got to think, hey, there was some 18-game wear on with his neck. Remember the bone in his neck?
Well, look at the Niners.
Because he may be one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen.
Right.
At the skills of quarterback.
Completely
Brady
agree.
did all this other stuff, right? Leadership, right play, check downs. But
you ran Peyton's offense. He was the offensive coordinator.
But just to watch, he reminded me, and look, Marino had some other things, but if you watch the Fouts, the Marinos, the Peyton Mannings, when they just get back there and throw it 42 times a game, it was mind-blowing to watch.
Yeah.
The best camera I love is that one floating on the field, where you actually kind of see what the quarterback sees. And dude, how they figure out with giant humans between them and anything, who, by the way, all want to eat them, right? And they showed. I go back to this clip all the time, and I got to find it so you can show it. It's not long, but it shows some of the greatest quarterbacks of all time literally getting separated from their head.
Yeah.
I mean, the hits on these guys. I mean, not even including the Joe Theismann leg crunch.
Right.
That was but that era to be a quarterback. Anyway, so my point being, you to your point, there are separating skills. Between the ears, it's got to be number one. Got to be number one. If you don't have that, you'll be a great college quarterback and just a non-starter in the NFL.
Well, what'll be fun? Rob and I have talked about, because he might not be able to do it next Tuesday, as we do. All three of us, is a couple of things.
That'd be so much fun.
Yeah, well, a couple of things that already fit in that we're already talking about, right? And he even mentioned, this is one he wants to talk about, and I agree completely. And this is why I told Rob we got to do a show, because he comes up with this stuff. Our playoff records for QBs misleading sometimes. Lamar's 1-3. Yeah. Dak's 2-4. They're not the same player.
No.
So, and this is why, when I'm talking keep or fire, Sirianni, my concern is they didn't fix anything year over year. If you actually, there's a great, I encourage everybody to follow it on Twitter, or if you're not on Twitter, just look them up. They're called Honest NFL, and he breaks down in depth. Their offense does not have any identity. It's honestly terrible. It has less.
Well, maybe that's why they're going after an OC, right?
Well, that's what it seems to, and I think that's not a bad idea, because I don't.
Yeah.
Now the problem is, right, we're going to find out. If they switch OC DC and it's still the same issues, then that's obviously Sirianni. And something Rob and I talked about is, how often do we go for these offensive coordinators that are great offensive coordinators but have no idea how to be a head coach? Because it is different. Yeah, just because your offense is good.
Well, you just look. You what's funny is I would love to look at coordinators, right? So either defensive or offensive. They go to be a head coach, lay an egg, and then go back to being a coordinator and being just fine.
Well, it's all the time. Wade Phillips, right? Marty Schottenheimer. I just had his name because he just actually Dan Quinn. Josh McDaniel, who I can't stand, but was a fine offensive coordinator. There's actually lots of them throughout the league, and it's shocking how often they get 3 and 4 and 5 chances. Like, listen, I have nothing against Wilkes. I don't know if he's going to be a good head coach. I don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Ryans was an absolute hit, but also he is a quarterback. Saleh has struggled with some of the intricacies of navigating Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is not an easy person to manage as a head coach, regardless of what you think of him personally. That's life. He's a little bit of a diva. So when I look at, I wouldn't fire Sirianni, partially because they were within 2 minutes of winning a Super Bowl. McCarthy has never gotten to the championship game, and they've never even looked competitive.
So they didn't at Green Bay? Did he get there at Green Bay?
Well, I mean, as Dallas. He has one, and actually, I'm going to look up his playoff record in a second. He has one Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. One.
Yeah, you do have Aaron Rodgers, but at the same time, I think he's, look, I don't know that he's, firing worthy. I don't know if I could work for Jerry Jones, to be honest with you.
I just think he's just okay. I think he's an okay head coach.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I personally don't, his offense is fairly pedestrian. It's fairly old. In fact, there's just a stupid example. I was watching some film on the Dallas game from a guy I really like, Johnny Dell, who does a phenomenal job. I highly recommend him. In a simple play, Carolina ran an end around to the long side of the field. McCarthy did the opposite, ran it to the short side. It's just simple things like that where you're like, okay, you didn't maximize the potential of your team in the plays. So my big problem with him and why I would have fired him is it's not like he's been competitive at all with Dallas.
Yeah.
They've gotten knocked out by the Niners twice and blown out by a 7th seed, which was your best opportunity. So that's why I would personally.
Yeah. So we talked about this. So here's not a pet peeve, but an observation. I'm not sure in the last 10 years if Dallas wasn't picked to be in the Super Bowl 7 or 8 out of 10 years at the beginning of the year. All the people that you and I know, I'm not going to mention any names, just go goo goo gaga. I don't care if it's Dallas. I don't care who it is. They just think, oh, they got the best defense in the league. Oh, they got this. Oh, they got. I have no idea why they do it. There's always a dogfight in the NFC East. I don't care if Washington and Giants suck. It doesn't matter. They're going to kick each other in the teeth all year long. So you got 6 games that are going to be a dogfight no matter what. So anyway, then they get in the playoffs. And whoever beats them now becomes the odds-on favorite to win the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah, every time.
Well, wait a minute. You just, to your point, just lost to the 7th seed.
Yep.
Who was 9-8.
3-2 in the last 5 games.
Kind of a rookie quarterback, blah,
yep.
You know. Green Bay's not that good.
Right.
So not to, I don't think we're doing predictions, but look, I was wrong on Cleveland because I thought Cleveland's defense was better. I didn't realize they sucked on the road. And CJ's legit, right? I think he might give Baltimore a run for their money. I still think Baltimore wins just because their defense is so good and it's Lamar, right? But I think CJ, if he comes out as relaxed as he did, right? That could be a fun game.
I agree, and that's okay. There's a reason why rookies never won a Super Bowl. Is at some point you run into a team like the Ravens or the Niners.
That is well coached, well prepared, ready to do the things that make you crazy. That they're in your face. Some defensive end has your number. Anyway,
very athletic linebackers, athletic safety, good coverage, good rush.
Right. So Buffalo Chiefs. I think it's a coin flip.
Oh yeah.
I think it's now. Hey, for the first time in I don't know how long, Chiefs defense is actually pretty good, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a coin flip. I don't know what the line is on that game, but I think it's a coin flip. I think it'll be a great game. I think it'll be fun to watch with Josh Allen and Mahomes.
It always is.
I don't care who wins. I really don't care who wins, right? I just want whoever wins to beat the other Baltimore if Baltimore gets there, just because I'm just not a big Baltimore fan. And then Lions, Tampa Bay, another coin flip game. Really?
Agree. Completely agree.
I don't think the Lions look that great against LA, or otherwise LA just overperformed because they didn't look that good most of the year. So I don't know which Lions team's going to show up, but I still think that's a coin flip. Niners, Green Bay, I think Niners are at least 10-point favorites, in my opinion.
Yep.
Because their defense is way better than Dallas. Way better. They dictate what offenses can do. 2, I literally think the Niners could just run all day.
Right.
I think they literally could give the ball to CMC all day long, whether short tosses, screen passes.
We did that last time.
Traps, drive, the things they do across the line, and I don't think Green Bay can stop them. That's just me. So but I was wrong on obviously on Baltimore, on Cleveland, Houston. I had flat out wrong, right? I didn't realize how good CJ was. I thought he was good, and then Cleveland was offensively just played terrible. And I thought their defense was better. I absolutely thought Dallas was going to beat Green Bay.
We both did.
I didn't think they were going to look that terrible.
Well,
I mean, just terrible.
That's just because, and honestly, for both of us, we didn't know much about, and it's normal. The 7th seed, you don't know much about coming in. Now that I know that Dan Quinn plays very static defense, can't stop the run, Green Bay loves motion, loves to run the ball. It's like, oh, I should have seen this coming. Same with Cleveland. But Houston is both Houston and Green Bay are 9.5-point underdogs which makes sense.
Yeah. Which if you're betting money, right? That's what we're talking about, right? How much money is on each team? That's really how the line goes, right? Not, I think they're 10 points better. And listen, how much more money has been there? And then what about the other two games? Are they a coin flip?
Well, and real quick, because I think we both have Baltimore because of that defense. It's literally going to take.
And Lamar, anyway, Lamar's just.
No, I agree because I think he gets a bad rap. I really do. I don't think he's nearly as bad as people think he is in the playoffs. He's a little bit of the LeBron problem of his teams, and really. This is, I think, the best team he's been on. He hides a lot of warts because of how good he is. So I don't want to put too much stock in 1 and 3.
Well, and I do wonder. So I do wonder about the offensive creativity on Baltimore, though. They are not very creative, and I don't know if that's Harbaugh or their OC, but
their spacing's really poor too.
Yeah, they remind me of the Eagles' offense, actually. But anyway, and then what about the other two games?
So. Detroit is a 6.5-point favorite over Tampa. I think that's a little.
No way.
I think that's a little high for me. I
would think it would be a field goal. Now that might just be a bunch of people putting a bunch of money.
Actually, I'm sorry. You know what? To your point, so you get 3 for being at home just automatically. So really, it is actually a field goal. Yeah. Because you get them 3 for being at home and then a field goal.
Just so everybody knows, I don't bet anything, so I didn't even know how that worked.
I think I
get it. Every now you could bet on literally do the cheerleaders wear a certain outfit or not. I mean it's
to me if you ever wanted to be nervous about the integrity of the sport, legalizing gambling was probably not the way to go.
Yeah, you think?
But I think it's a little high. I don't know who to pick because I'm not very impressed with Detroit's defense or offense.
Right.
Because they're just kind of okay, but
it's Goff. Come on, it's Goff.
But it's also Baker on the other side, who I'm not saying he's not playing well. I just I think Tampa's going to beat him. That's my pick.
I do think Tampa wins. They're not 6-point underdogs, so that's ridiculous. If I was a betting man, that would be a good line to take, and I'm not a betting man.
Now, the interesting one, in my opinion, partially because of the line, which tells me Vegas doesn't know who's going to win, is Buffalo is a 2.5-point favorite. Not even a field goal, because typically you get 3 for being at home. So Vegas is like, we don't have a freaking clue.
Right. Well, and just as I remember it, they set the line and then it moves based on the money.
True, 100%.
So anyway, I find it very hard to pick to bet against Mahomes.
Same.
I can bet against Josh Allen.
It's the Brady problem.
Josh Allen can absolutely throw it all over the yard to the wrong people.
He is Favre. And listen, my heart, I want to root for Buffalo, partially because I think Josh Allen gets too much crap for what the expectation of what he's required to do. And no offense to Mahomes, you have Andy Reid.
Well, yeah. Well, and by the way, they're wide out that it's just all world. Buffalo, I mean.
Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, I mean, they were overfeeding him for whatever reason, and then to Rob's point, they actually started running the football at some point, right? Which Anyway.
Well,
and you always wonder. So here's the funny part, right? So if your tendencies were throw it 42 times a game, and all of a sudden you start running, that's going to be successful out of the 100%. Gate because everybody's putting in nickel packages against you. You know what I mean? They're not putting 8 guys in the box. Blah 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 blah. Right now, when they figure out that you're going to run more, and they put a bunch of guys, then it's the Josh Allen show again.
Well, I'm really surprised they don't use him more like Lamar in terms of our run pass options.
Well, he can run. It just looks terrible.
He's a little bit like Allstott.
Well, he runs into people, which is never a good idea as a quarterback. Because I don't even care if it's a cornerback. He can still put the lumber right in your.
Well, and this is what's interesting for him is I don't wish this on him, but he might run into the Cam Newton problem. Where, dude, if you're taking a lot of running back damage.
Dang, lay down. It's like slide.
Now he faked out the Steelers with a fake slide, which is one of my pet peeves.
Dude, I just
what's good news for both those teams is they each have a weapon. Who is like Rashee Rice is coming on for Kansas City, and I was telling Rob this. It's the same concept. Stephon Diggs needs a buddy. Well, there was a great play at the end of the game by, and I don't remember the guy's name. I'm so sorry. Who made an incredible play. You need that in the playoffs. When the Giants beat the Patriots, they had the dude who did the helmet catch, who has now done nothing since. I don't even think he's in the NFL anymore. But for your playoff runs, you need someone to step up to give you another option.
You know who was on the other side of Rice? John Taylor.
Oh, yeah.
John Taylor's the one that ran the 92-yard touchdown, not Jerry Rice.
Wow.
So I'm just saying, they had also Brent Jones as a tight end. They had Roger Craig coming out of the backfield, but they had two wideouts, and then they throw in a third, and one time it was Sheridan, somebody 88, I can't remember the original 88, but they do three wideouts, and John Taylor and the other guy, because they were putting two people on Jerry. Once they figured out Jerry Rice was going to beat him, right? Anyway, so yeah, I mean, if you look at, it's funny trying to remember guys opposite, like Dallas. He's a commentator now. Yeah, right. Who was opposite Irvin, right? Back in but there was no. If you look it up, there was.
I know that's just I couldn't tell you,
right? Here, what's his name? All World was a number 2 to everybody.
Fitzgerald.
Yeah. He was number 2 to the slot guy all the time, right? So they always had somebody barn burning down the side of the
right.
So if you look at the guys that did it all by themselves, the Steve Largents of the world, you got to tip your hat, right? You got to tip your hat to guys that they didn't really have a number 2. So how did they do what they did? You know what I mean? And there's a few of those. We go on and on.
Well, Randy Moss, Terrell.
Randy Moss.
Terrell had Jerry for a while, but he was someone who it didn't matter if you guarded him.
Exactly.
Because he was just. I watched a 6-minute clip of him just shrugging people off.
Even Terrell Owens.
That's what I was saying.
That was a physical freaking monster of a human.
He was.
If you got it in his body somewhere,
yeah,
you could try to. You could even put a PI on him. He's still going to catch the ball.
He was kind of, if he was playing now, I almost wonder, and he wasn't quite big enough to be a tight end, but to me, he was setting the stage for guys like Shannon Sharp to be a tight end kind of position. Real quick, McCarthy is 11-11 in the playoffs. He is 1-4 with Dallas, which means he was 10-7.
Which means he was 11-7 or 10-7 before, right? Which is not terrible.
Not.
Right? By the way, that means you're 17 times you bet at the playoffs. I mean,
22.
Remember you and I huh?
Oh, no. I'm sorry. 22
before
games. How many? It all depends on how far he went. But that's some pretty consistent playoff appearances.
Right. So my point. So everybody forgets about Kelly with Buffalo, who, by the way, went to Super Bowl 4 straight times.
Right.
Oh, he lost. So he sucks. Really? Really? There's teams that have never been to a Super Bowl, let alone one. And Buffalo was there 4 years in a row. So anyway, I always want to tip my hat to Buffalo for that, because everybody forgets, man. It's tough. I mean, it's like the Huskies. I mean, we're celebrating Washington because the Huskies got to the national championship. Right. Nobody gave them 2 shakes of the. Everybody said. By the way, everybody picked Texas to beat them to start with.
Right.
So anyway.
But, like I was saying before the show started, though, and we need to touch on Carroll, too, because I think he's an interesting one, because that's that kind of we made you retire. But real quick, so we remember Dungy got replaced by Gruden, won a Super Bowl. Andy Reid got replaced, not right away, by Peterson, won a Super Bowl. Peterson got replaced by Sirianni, went to a Super Bowl. I know there's Stafford replacing Goff, wins a Super Bowl. Even the Brady going to Tampa. So only reason that's there's precedent for you might need to change to get a new voice to get you over the hump. But Carroll, oh no. I thought I fixed it. Apparently, I didn't fix it.
I'm sitting here like this. I go, I didn't touch anything.
I gotta look. The collab cam randomly just dropping because I've tried everything. Of like, okay,
Really?
let me. Anyway, we do need to talk about Carroll because that's like made you retire kind of.
Yeah. So funny you say that. So today I was looking up. I was just interested, looking up all the openings that are still there. What's going on? And you look at the guys that actually got fired, and you're going, probably all those guys probably needed to be fired. You look at Pete. One, everybody loves Pete except for me. Okay, I didn't like it when they picked him to begin with because he left USC in just a terrible.
Oh yeah, terrible. And I'm a USC fan. That was fun.
I have some good friends. They call him Cheat Carroll. They don't call him Pete. They call him Pete the Cheat. Look, rah, blah, blah, blah. He did great things for Seattle, for the Seahawks. I get it, right? But they also had Russ Wilson at the same time. So, and they had some really good athletes. I don't think he drafts that well.
I agree.
But here's the deal, right? It's almost like they tried to do right by Pete, even though they knew it was time to change because they were 8-8, 8-8, whatever it was, right?
Kinda.
And I don't believe. Look, nothing against the young man. I don't believe Smith, is their QB. I don't think he's the answer, right? And they had quarterback opportunities and they didn't get them, right? You got all those picks for Russ, and you don't go get somebody, right? Anyway, so they did the nice thing, in my opinion.
Kind of, because they still have to pay him for one more year, so it feels like we don't want to pay him
anyway. Sometimes you're paying him anyway,
right? But that's my point. Hey, listen. I know you want to coach somewhere else, but we have one more year.
I don't think they wanted him to coach somewhere else.
That's my point. Like, they have one more year, so guess what? You're going to consult with us, and fine, you're free to go. But we're not letting you loose.
So, here's the funny thing. I don't know if you heard this. So, you had one of the notes was, U of A guy goes to Seattle to coach the Huskies.
Mm-hmm.
Did a great job here at U of A. By the way, 2 years turning them around. U of A hasn't been good in a while in football.
And hilariously, ASU was the big one, and U of A actually has done.
U of A was only basketball. That's all they ever did.
Very funny to me.
ASU was baseball and football. Anyway, so here's the thing I did not know. One of his assistant coaches is Pete Carroll's son.
That's weird.
He's going with him.
Oh, we've hit that point where we know the children, like Kyle Shanahan being a coach. We've hit that point. Oh my god!
So I did not know that. I from what I understand, his son is actually quite successful. Outside home of his dad.
Well, he's done the right thing. He's kind of like, I'm going to go through the ranks kind of thing. But
somebody actually, one of the lines and one of the stories was Pete ends up being a consultant also to the Huskies. And I went, Well, if you're Pete, you're 7. Look, dude, the guy is 9 years older than me, and he's still making $1 million a year. Do I really, bow my head to Pete, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
Pete, way to go. Great legacies, other than the cheat thing at USC, which probably wasn't the only team doing it. Blah blah blah. But anyway. So I think getting the guy from U of A was actually pretty good, and they got him fast because I don't know if you noticed, and we can talk about it, the whole portal thing, where they can move from school to school.
The guy from Washington's leaving.
Well, there's a few of them leaving. A couple of them declared for the couple of them declared for the NFL early, and a couple of them jumped into the portal.
Well, and I remember there was some news. Alabama had some.
Well, that's why Alabama tried to move quick, right? They wanted to, because look, here's the thing. Forever the coaches could just swap jobs left and right, and the kids that I recruited them to Huskies, I leave, they're stuck. Or if they wanted to leave, they had to give up a year of eligibility. Well, basically sit. They didn't give it up, right? They had to go sit for a year, right? So now we've flipped the script. Everybody can. I just don't think it doesn't seem to be the right plan. I don't. when you're promising your student, I think you said it to me. When you're promising your student $1 million in endorsements to come go to your school.
Yeah.
What?
So weird.
Is he even? Do they even attend class?
Well, it depends on the school.
Do you need to? I mean, you remember the stories about Dion when they paid him all that money for baseball. He still hadn't went to football. If you remember, he was playing for Florida State or Florida or Miami.
I think he went to Miami. I think he went to Florida State.
So he was BMOC, baby. He was handing out $100 bills to his buddies. I mean, and it was trying to like help them. It was Florida State. So, by the way, Dion was not, he wasn't doing anything illegal. I don't mean that. I mean, he was helping guys out. Because back then, dude, you could barely afford lunch money.
Oh, yeah, it was
practice 12 hours a day, still had to maintain your school, all of that. And the Atlanta Braves were paying him big money. Right? I mean, dual athlete. I mean, Dion was a freak athlete. Come on. He's Bo Jackson, only he could, he wasn't like, he wasn't the Hulk. Right. But my point being, the stories, and he'll tell them. It isn't. He's not the only one. His teammates would tell the stories too. How he'd literally, buy a guy a car, or buy, because they were just starving to death, right?
Well, anyway, that's the downside too.
Nowadays, they're not doing that now.
Well, and that's a little bit why a lot of, you and I are kind of like, okay, at this point, you probably need to pay players because it stopped being about amateur athletics when you're making millions of dollars. Yeah. Now, a lot of Alabama players are leaving. There's starting safety, starting cornerback, tight end, linebacker, inside linebacker, or inside offensive lineman, another cornerback, wide receiver, and their crown jewel quarterback. All of them basically said we wanted to play for Saban. I'm surprised they didn't give the guy who just went to a national championship a shot.
Yeah.
That's really weird to me.
Exactly.
But wow, that's a lot.
By the way, it's not like Saban left and went to another school, right? So where are you going, Mr. Number One? Where are you going?
Well, that's just it. That's where a lot of in a good way, a lot of these players have a lot of power.
You got a quarterbacks coach. This guy has literally made quarterbacks. DeBoer.
No, I agree.
If you look at, was it New Mexico State? I don't remember. I don't remember his coaching career. But everywhere he's been, he's made quarterbacks, basically. And Alabama isn't exactly famous for their quarterbacks. They're famous for their Heisman people, but they're not necessarily famous.
If I'm an offensive guy, that's actually why I think it's weird. Isaiah Bond, the receiver, committed to Texas. I think that's weird because he says, well, I wanted to play for Saban. Oh, okay, well, why Texas then? Offensive lineman went to Florida State. Tight end doesn't say yet, but the quarterback one, I agree with you, is weird because if you see what he did,
and he's going where?
He just entered on the night. He's entering on the today.
But I mean, there's. I wonder if it's a little bit. I'm going to take my cookies, go home. And by the way, Penix, I think, went two different places.
Yeah, from Indiana to no, I'm sorry. Is it Indiana?
Anyway,
because I thought that might be the other guy.
I'm happy for my Huskies. I am confused by the NFL taking forever on some of these coaching changes. I don't remember taking this long. What's weird is people interviewing for coaches that don't have GMs.
What?
San Diego.
Matt? Oh, yeah.
Didn't have a GM.
Well, so what I wonder.
One of the comments was, Harbaugh's the lead candidate. And by the way, then he would have a say on who becomes it.
Well, but I wonder, right? Like Washington did it, in my opinion, they did it right. They got Adam Peters in. They're like, we're set at GM. But I wonder if what they're trying to see is, okay, who like Kyle, when he came in, essentially handpicked Lynch. He said, listen, so when the draft comes up, it's really Kyle Shanahan's draft. It's not really Lynch because he wants that control. That's why we always draft a running back in the first couple rounds, and he never pans out. It's the most bizarre thing. But I wonder if you're the Chargers, you want to get a feel for how many.
It sounded like that. Exactly.
That's interesting.
So, and the two names they said would fit well with Harbaugh, basically. And I'd have to go back and look at the article. Two guys I didn't necessarily, because I mean, how many of us are actually looking at the GM at any team and going, "Oh, I know him." Well, I know Lynch only because I'm a Niner fan, right?
Well, and listen, that's partially why.
And I forgot Schneider in Seattle, and he's been there forever.
Oh, yeah, me too. But that's partially why I kind of forgot when we were discussing this with all the openings of how much I don't care who Washington hires. It's only interesting because some of the names that are available. Otherwise, I don't care.
Oh, yeah, Redskins, Commanders.
Yeah.
Right?
Like,
gotcha.
It's like, okay,
we were
look
just
at
about
them.
the Huskies, so you said Washington, and I'm like,
oh, yeah.
Gotta coach, Russ.
But I was realizing, like, I don't really care if Atlanta hires Belichick outside of it's interesting that it's Belichick. I don't care about the Falcons. Yeah. So I was like, why am I?
Yeah, I mean, I'd hire Belichick. I still think he's relevant. I still think he's been successful.
Right. But other than it's an interesting story, I don't care what Atlanta does. Like, I just don't care.
No. You might care. You might care. Certainly might care who Seattle.
That's the one that's interesting,
division, right? You might care. What happens in San Diego if you care about the college to pro thing.
Exactly.
I like San Diego a little bit. I'm not a.
I think
they're the former AFC West guy, right?
Well, they keep calling it San Diego.
I do too.
Why is it? Why are they in LA? That doesn't make sense. You were the fourth, at least, favorite team.
Yeah,
it's real dumb, but yeah, because I'm curious where Harbaugh goes. It's interesting.
Fourth favorite team,
easily.
Yeah, the LA Sparks might be more.
But anyway. I have an interesting one too, because this has always kind of bugged me, just partially because it becomes a thing, is the fact they do coaching interviews during the playoffs. Like the Lions guy prepping for a game.
Yeah, you mean you're interviewing the guy for this?
He has a game on Sunday. He has 4 interviews. It's so weird. Because that's where I start to wonder, okay, Dan Quinn, how focused were you? If you had a bunch of interviews lined up, how much were you prepping for interviews over prepping your players?
Right.
So I'm not a huge fan. I wish they would just be like, listen, y'all have to wait.
I thought they used to make them wait.
They moved it back a little bit, but they didn't change much. What a lot of the teams in the playoffs would say is listen, or teams not in the playoffs would say listen. That gives an unfair advantage to coaches who have already been eliminated, and makes it harder for us to get our guy, so to speak. But if you just say everybody has to wait till the playoffs are over, I don't. Well, the other thing they say too is okay. That means it bumps back the preparation of the next head coach because he'd be halfway through February or almost into March before he can get his stuff started. So I don't know if there is a good answer. I've always been bothered by it because I think it becomes a distraction, and it makes you start to wonder when teams underperform when their coach has all these openings. So I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of it. I think it's weird.
It's restricted till January 22nd,
which
after the divisional round, basically.
Yeah, because that's Monday. But restricted, right? Restricted. Like, oh, yeah, we didn't talk to whoever about our opening. This is our first time talking to him. And you're like, is it? Is it your first time talking to him? I know how this works. You guys have buddy.
Yeah. I thought they actually limited it much more in the past. But once again, like I remember them not being able. So for me, right, because I've been around too long, I remember that you couldn't push your own teammate who had the ball.
Oh, I hate
that was illegal.
So much.
Right? I mean, that was you couldn't. Your running back's on the one. He's up there against 7 linemen. Good luck, buddy. Now it's a rugby scrum.
There was literally a clip. It might have been Josh Allen where he was literally being carried into the end zone. I'm like, what is this? And the reasoning, I looked it up because I still thought it was illegal. But in 2005, they basically said it's so hard to enforce. And I'm like, is it really? Is it really?
Hard. It's not hard compared to all the other jackwad.
I feel like it's fairly obvious that the guy is getting pushed in.
By the way, I didn't flip you the article. Did you see the video of the terrible no call?
Which one?
The Cleveland Houston game, where the guy literally tackled the guy before the ball ever got there, and the ref was right there. I mean, the point by the guy was, look,
Yeah.
none of those calls would have given my Browns the game because they played so terribly.
Right.
But they were so one-sided, it was really hard not to go, what the hell is going on? Same thing, in my opinion, the Michigan Huskies game. They literally had the receiver by the freaking jersey twice, no call.
Well, there's
they
plenty
had
of,
the holding call
defense.
that wasn't a hold, and then they didn't call the holding call. Right now, I think Michigan still probably wins that game because apparently Penix was, on drugs. I don't know. Anyway, my point being, they were so bad. The officials were so bad.
Well, it feels like it's the worst it's been in a long time.
Yeah, but I don't. So the funny part is, go back to the what was it? Minnesota Saints game where they had the same thing. The guy literally tackled the guy with the ball in the way.
No, that was Rams. Saints?
Minnesota.
I don't remember. Is he the Rams, Minnesota, or Rams?
I swear to
Saints?
God, it was in Minnesota. That's why. But it was like,
well, that's the Minnesota Miracle where the guy goes underneath the receiver. The hit was on, I think, a Rams player where it was like.
Right, they didn't call it.
Yeah, it was weird.
So there's been. I mean, what's the one where they said that the Cowboy guy didn't catch it? Remember that one?
Oh yeah.
It landed on his freaking head. It's
Saints
like
Rams.
Yeah, I knew it was Saints.
It was garbage.
So some of those you're just like, can somebody in the booth go, okay, purple flag, 12, green flag.
That's actually what frustrates me is, and we talked about this, and it's going to be a whole long show topic in the off season. This isn't that hard to change. Make them full time. Give New York hey, listen, if it's obvious that we know everybody's going to complain about it, we'll just correct it. Because also that just helps the refs. That just is helpful for them.
So real quick, if I were to ask you, right, hold the mic up to you or Rob, I'd love to ask Rob this next week. What professional sport has the best officiates?
I would only say hockey, but hockey is a bad habit of if they call too many penalties, they'd stop calling it for one team because it starts to look really one-sided. But I feel like
here's the funny part though: are they ever wrong? And if they are, they overturn it.
Yeah, the only time
like the whole goal thing, I get it, small rink, I get all that.
Yeah,
the worst, in my opinion, is the NBA.
Yeah,
not even close
because they're egos.
Well, no, two things. The game is so fast.
True.
You've already given up so much. I mean, the travels. Oh my God! They should highlight of this kid. I believe he stopped dribbling at the half court line, and the caption was, "Isn't this traveling?" So I get
the rules
it.
they don't
they're
enforce.
Superhuman athletes, to be fair. The Kevin Durant's. These people are just freaks of nature that they can do what they can do with a round ball and their bodies. Let's just be honest. The refs look like they're 4'11" and they can't keep up. That's number one. If you took Kobe Bryant's of the world, right, and made them athletes, I think they are refs. They might have a shot.
Yeah, because they know what to look for.
And the way you brought a women, is that just a equity or whatever? The women's anyway. They're faster. And you've abdicated everything, right? You've literally let them carry. You've completely screwed up the track. I mean, we're getting into basketball now, but you've completely screwed up the track. So you carry that over to the NFL. The rules that you make these guys try to officiate is beyond belief.
But what's a catch?
What's
a catch? He has to control it and make a football action.
Well, the different look. If I showed a ref 5, let's pick 5 sacks of a quarterback, I guarantee you we'd get seven different opinions on if it was roughing or not.
Mm-hmm.
They could lay them down, and they'd call roughing the pass.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like,
"Yep."
Right? I mean,
or a great example.
Go ahead.
Did you see the hit on the Rams tight end where he tore his MCL or ACL?
No, I don't think so.
They've told the safeties and the defense, try to hit him essentially below the waist. Because
like in the thigh.
Well, guess what? He blew out. His knee. And every player you ask goes, listen, I totally understand safety for my brain. I get that. But I lose my ACL, MCL. I don't get paid anymore. So now they've changed it to where now it's like, listen, you didn't make the sport safer. You just changed the injury. Yeah. And that's the part that bothers me is you're never going to...
By the way, you didn't stop the running back from lowering his head.
They've actually started finding them.
Really? Mm-hmm. I haven't seen one, but if that's the case, because here's the problem. I'm going to tackle you. My head is up. I'm going to use my shoulder, and you put your head down, and you put it right here. Or you put it right here.
Did you see Mahomes where his helmet exploded?
And he had to get a different helmet?
Yeah.
And they didn't call timeout, oh, by the way?
Oh, yeah. Just another example.
They didn't charge him a timeout. I saw that today. I'm like, wait a minute.
This is my point. This is the worst the refs have been in years. And by the way, part of this is...
Let me ask you a question.
Go for it.
Is there too many rules? So
I think that's part of it.
Here's my point, right? So me, I'm out there, right? And I see him switch helmet, and I go, wait a minute. Can he do that? Hey, Russ, can he do that? By then, hike, they're gone. It's like, well, I guess they can do that.
You know what I didn't know? If a defender initiates a rip through on an offensive lineman that would have otherwise been called holding, it's no longer a hold. Didn't know that. It's in the rule book.
He blows through when the guy's got him. He blows through it.
Well, he tries to. As soon as he initiates the rip motion, even if the guy still holds on to him, it's not. I don't understand it, but it is in the rule book. So all the times we've been complaining, it's actually not a penalty.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not. That actually really.
What? Can I just one of the best highlight reels? Have you seen the highlight reel of used to be Green Bay? The Minister of Defense.
Reggie White.
Have you seen the highlight reel where he just throws people out of the way?
350-pound dude, just a rip through, and the guy
goes, whee! And then, my best way, I don't remember who he tackles. I just don't remember. But it's somebody, a quarterback who's, reputation, and he literally helps him back up.
Yeah.
And pats him on the butt, goes back to the level. Instead of the
Shaq before Shaq.
Instead of the I'm the best and I just sack.
I don't know. I really like defensive lineman celebrations.
No, I'm just saying Reggie that's not Reggie. Reggie is I'm going to throw. He threw him into the quarterback, one of them, and I'm just like, okay, there's not another human like Reggie.
No, him and Bruce Smith.
Lord, there's just some people that are just...
Well, that's why I say he was Shaq before Shaq. A guy that big with footwork like that.
Well, yeah, the moves he got you halfway off your feet and then just chuck you aside.
Name another large edge rusher. Now it's all speed rushers. I love Nick Bosa, but he's a speed rusher. Micah Parsons. Even you look at Strahan, he was not the biggest guy. There is not another big edge rusher anymore.
JJ was more of a power rusher than
true, but I'm meaning like size. All these guys have shrunk down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, back in that day, you had Carl Eller and Page, and you had a lot of dudes that was their MO, right? I mean, they were in the gym, and all they were doing is, they were just their upper bodies were like sick.
Right.
I mean, and then the thing about Reggie White, Cowboy. Reggie White, the people don't realize is if you watch him, it was like you said, footwork and then leverage. He wasn't just throwing you with an arm. He could, but he had that hip, whoop, and you were one goofy step backwards.
Just a game changer.
Yeah. It's just so cool because you forget real quick. Guys like Bo Jackson and watching him run, or Earl Cooper would just literally break your neck with his hip. He had 34-inch thighs, right? I mean, 34 inches is supposed to be your waist.
Right.
Right. So when you see, or like when we talked about Emmett Thomas and Barry Sanders and Walter Payton and just some. I mean, I don't know that there's a running back like those guys anymore, anywhere.
Adrian Peterson was probably the last.
Ooh, Adrian was just... No. I think Henry.
No, but see, I really like him, but I still don't think he's quite...
He's a power guy, is my point. He was power. But I don't... I mean, a shifty dude like a Walter Payton or a Barry Sanders. I mean, okay, there's not going to be another Barry Sanders. I get that. But somebody who literally looks like a jitterbug on glass. I mean, they're just going to go around you. They give you a little whoop, and you're just air.
CMC, I love him to death. He's actually, in my opinion, not actually the best just prototypical running back.
No.
He's got good vision. He's shifty, but that's not what makes him so great.
Here's the thing, in my opinion, is his vision is the thing.
Yeah.
And he can get where he needs to get to. But he's literally a triple threat, right?
Yep.
He can run, he can block, he can catch.
Yep. Although he is part of the reason why in the Ravens game we got a penalty and then Purdy threw a pick because he went low and the lineman went high rather than just trying to stand him up. Mm-hmm. Now, this will be a quick fun one to end the show. Which is better, indoor or outdoor games?
This is fun because we disagree.
Oh, yeah. And I don't think there's, it's really a style difference, right? Because I think... I like indoor better, but the fun of outdoor games is kind of the stuff you've seen from the Bills, where their fans are having to get snow out of their seats and they're throwing snowballs on the field. There is an element of the weather that can be really entertaining.
Right.
I just struggle because I really just want to see, because it can ruin matchups like Miami KC. Miami can make a legitimate argument that if that game is in Miami, they probably win. Now, I'm not saying they would have, but, there is an element of Goff in a dome is a far better QB than outdoors in the rain, in the sleet, in the snow. So, I prefer indoor because I want to see best versus best.
Well, I want the elements because we've always had the elements, and I just think it's so much more fun. But I will tell you this, right? So here's the flip side, right? Where it ends up being a disadvantage. You look at a guy like Peyton Manning. How many games did he play in the Dome in Indianapolis?
Oh, yeah.
And then he's got to go to Foxborough and play.
Yep.
He's got to go to Pittsburgh and play. He's got to go to Buffalo and play. He's got to go to New York and play.
Even Baltimore can get pretty...
Right. Well, anything north of where they are. Right, Chicago.
Right.
I mean, anything north of Indianapolis, and even Indianapolis, you look outside the building, it's awful.
Right.
Right. So
hell, Kansas City was negative 30.
Right. Well, and so if you look at just the NFC North. Vikings have played in an indoor stadium since the Metrodome, right? But you got Lambeau. Now you got Lambeau. Right, where by the way, Niners went in there and kicked their ass in negative whatever the heck it was. Right, they got
one on a block punt.
They got heaters under the damn field, right, to soften it. Go a little bit farther east. What do you got? Soldier Field, Chicago. Right, Chicago. Look, some of the best games I've ever seen were in some of the worst weather I've ever seen. Go north to Detroit, Silverdome or whatever. I don't know if it's still in Silverdome. It was Silverdome originally, right? So 2 out of 4 are indoors. AFC North, all outdoors. Right? Aren't they all outdoors?
I think so.
AFC North?
Yeah, because Pittsburgh, Baltimore,
Buffalo,
Cincy,
and New England.
Cincy.
Yeah. And then the East is all outdoors as well, I get it, but it's Miami.
Ford Field.
That doesn't,
Ford Field is Detroit.
Yeah. Yeah, now, yes. Okay, so but then, the AFC East, you got New England, you got the Jets, right?
Yep.
Tennessee? Or is Tennessee in there with
none of these divisions? You ever notice this? These divisions don't make sense.
Not anymore. And then Miami all the way in the south, right? So Miami's going to have to play those guys in the crap weather one way or the other. So, I played football. I didn't get to play indoors ever. And so, and I played in Seattle. I did not play in Minnesota. I did not play in Wisconsin, right? I did play in Chicago. I played in Washington where it was wet. I mean, I once landed in a mud puddle in the middle of the field, about 50-yard line. That literally my face mask was full of mud grass mixture, and I just we unfortunately we had orange jerseys and white pants. By the time I got home, you could not tell what color any of what I wore was. Right, and this is Pee Wee. This is not, And varsity, we had a. Well, I mean, it goes back to the argument of natural turf versus artificial turf. Right?
Yep.
So one of the best things ever, in my opinion, is if you're going to do an indoor, you do like they did it here in Carolina, or for the Cardinals. On that rolling tray, they got one of the best grass fields in the country, I guess, according to people that know grass, right?
Right.
To me, that's phenomenal because you can still have an outdoor field and have a terrible AstroTurf field, right? But so here's a wild card for you. I see if you remember this, right? So Oakland Raiders in Oakland, if the A's made the playoffs, they would play on a field that was baseball field till they got there. They even had, at one point, the infield was still dirt. They didn't even plant grass.
I remember that because it was weird.
Awful. They talked about nobody wanted to get tackled on the infield because it was terrible. It was like landing on cement, right? So I vote for, hey, look, there's only a few games or professional sports that you actually have to deal with environment. Golf is one of them, for example. And even then, if it's lightning, of course they'll do that in the NFL. They've canceled games for lightning. I think Buffalo had one where they were afraid.
They at least moved the Buffalo game because of
a day, right? But they actually canceled or postponed or whatever. I believe it was Buffalo because of the lightning. They were afraid for fans, which I'm okay with saving the life of a fan. But golf, I mean, look, I've seen the greatest game movie. Amateur against a pro. It's actually a really, really great movie. But they played they were literally, ankle deep in mud in places. And, nowadays they don't do that nearly as much, right? Well, what other game plays in the elements like that?
But let me be a little bit devil's advocate. Where do they play the Super Bowl, typically?
Warm weather city, but not always indoors. They've had them where
that's my point. Why?
They've had them where it was raining. They've had them, if you look back.
There's they've had one in New York. I mean, I get it.
Right? Oh yeah,
but
they were by the way, they were very worried about the one in New York, the one that they share with the Jets and Giants, the one in Jersey.
I don't think they do anymore, but they did at the time. They shared a stadium. But that's my point, right? If you are, and I get it, I'm being a little devil's advocate here because it's a Super Bowl. Because rain is fine. Wind is a little like, okay, we'll deal with that. But you'll notice.
It depends on the stadium, right? I mean, they know which way the wind's blowing. And they got
what I don't see on here? Chicago as a Super Bowl destination. So, there's an element of
an outdoor stadium in the South in the summer.
True.
They don't make them not play when it's 117 at ASU.
But that's a little different, though, right? There's an element where they eliminate the ones that make for a low-scoring, dirty game.
I get that, but you've seen the games, especially in the South, like college, for example, where the field temperature is like 130.
No, I agree.
Canceling those.
Well, but I still would say, well, actually, this is an interesting question. Personally,
that's dangerous for the freaking athlete, if you ask me.
But I'd much rather play in heat than in snow if you asked me to play a football game.
I've been out. We have had Indian summer in Seattle on occasion. And it seemed like right after you got your freaking pads. So we'd been in summer, we'd been in August, it was pouring down rain, slogging through, turf that was awful. And then all of a sudden, we get Indian summer about mid-September. We were in full pads, and we were freaking dying. Because 80 degrees in Seattle in full pads. It's kind of like here. I watch these poor kids. We're literally right down the street from a high school here. And they are out there at 5:15 in the morning in summertime preparing for the season. Because in August here, we're in Phoenix, Arizona. I have no idea how they do it. I mean, I take that back. I did coach. and I helped the high school, right? The Fountain Hills Falcons high school too. In fact, I was the water dude filling in for Jordan's dad when Jordan's dad was not there. He was a much better water guy than me, but I tried to live up to the pro. But dude, you know, it's like these guys are like losing weight while they're just running down the field.
Right, and this isn't a perfect example because the high school I went to, we had like uniforms with dress shoes. We played basketball in 120-degree heat, running back and forth.
I remember.
Yeah, like to me, that's one reason. Like, it doesn't.
Be interested to see what Rob thinks.
Oh, I'd love that. There's a couple I want to follow up with Rob, but you know, if you were to ask me which is easier to play football in, it's heat versus rain and wind and snow by far.
Yeah, I think there's a breakover point on both ends, right? If it's damp, the pigskin can be actually a little tacky, and you're probably okay. Like I told you, my high school football field was actually easier to run when it was wet than when it was dry. It was actually slippery when it was dry. Former Husky Stadium AstroTurf. Don't ask. But, you know, natural grass, I mean, you end up the biggest spikes you can have. I mean, and I played baseball in the snot because I grew up in Seattle, right? And it was still raining in May when you played baseball. You know, throwing a snotty baseball is a lot worse than throwing a wet football. I will say that. But I had a lot of fun playing especially on defense, playing in the nasty weather.
Well, and that's why I think if you were asking me as a fan, well, it also depends on my team. Like right now with the Niners, I don't want rain. I don't.
Well, here's the deal. Flip it around. Let's say Green Bay is the central or the North champion, and Niners had to transfer to Green Bay. Of course, you don't want to play there. You want to play in the brand new nice Levi Stadium with the nice grass and the great weather, right? Of course you do.
Well, and literally, it's only a matter of 4 years, but the team's different. In 2019, I didn't care because we could run you for 250 yards. But this year,
is Frank Gore? Is that Frank Gore?
No, he retired. It was Mostert before he went.
Okay.
Ran for 250, and this was actually, I think, in Levi Stadium, or at least our old stadium. He ran for 250 yards. But in the game where we beat them on the block punt, we're a running team with defense. If you're that kind of team, then obviously you're fine with the weather.
Yeah.
You know, if you're Kurt Warner, you want to play in your dome.
Exactly. You want speed, baby.
But, and again, this is only just, I think the fact that we pick the Super Bowl in places where we can minimize weather, even if there's heat, even if there's whatever, is I don't think a bad argument for why maybe the playoffs need to be a little bit more neutral site.
But the problem is, in the playoffs, you want the home field advantage, right?
Well, that's my point. As a fan of Buffalo, the snow is fun.
It was hilarious.
As a player, that might be a little different.
Did you see how nice they got that field, though?
They did a great job.
Wait a minute.
I was really impressed.
People were making snowmen in the stands and throwing snowballs, by the way, which we've already went to the snowball game in Denver, which still makes me angry. But that field was immaculate, amazing. Whoever the ground crew.
What Denver? What
Denver Niner game. So Niners were ready to kick a field goal to win the game, and they threw a freaking snowball out of the stands, and it landed like almost where the football was, and they didn't call anything. Not fan interference.
That's weird.
Yep.
Niners
lost. What?
Tuck rule. Raiders, Patriots in the snow.
Immaculate conception, reception. The Franco Harris one. It was in a nasty knockdown, drag out game. But I'll tell you what, Raiders didn't care about what weather they played in.
No.
They were still going to, grab you between the legs.
Well, Josh Allen put 40 on the Patriots in a snowstorm. So part of it is you have to also factor in like Purdy, for whatever reason, obviously it's partially small hands, weather affects him. But when you have Josh Allen, he's like, I don't care, I can throw it 40 yards.
Yeah, that whole hand size thing is really
it does matter.
Interesting,
I mean,
well, especially if you're a play action kind of guy, where you're really good with the football, big hands make a big difference, and that I never even thought about that.
Well, and I don't think we'll talk about it today, but I do want to probably next week. And it'll be interesting based on how the weekend goes, right, is how does Stroud and Love perform? Because right now, and again, I'm biased, I understand that, but it's just still weird to me that Purdy's ranked as the 8th best quarterback left in the playoffs.
I look, here's the deal. if you're Brock Purdy, if you're the Niners, what you want to do is just prove everybody wrong.
Right. And it's obvious to me, like
everybody's. Hey, look, if you're Brock Purdy, they've apparently bet against you your whole life.
Oh yeah.
And you end up the number one guy in Arizona, right? Think about the athletes coming out of Arizona. There's some few that are dang good, right? Number one athlete in Arizona that year, right? What was the Iowa State? I think it was Iowa State.
Yeah.
You didn't go to Ohio State.
Nope.
You didn't go to USC or UCLA. Why? Because they probably didn't pick you. Now you're the last guy in the NFL pick. Might as well not have been drafted, right? I mean, according to everybody. Right now you're sitting behind Jimmy Garoppolo. You get your shot, and you do everything short of getting your arm torn off. Everything. He's done nothing but win, Rob. Or Russ. I don't care about his stats. I don't even care, even though they're unbelievable. He's done nothing but win. And if when he wins the Super Bowl, everybody can shut up.
They won't. No, because here's the problem. It was the same conversation we just had with Brady. We literally just said people were asking after 6 Super Bowls. Was it Belichick or was it Brady? It's like, guys, we should have known better by that point.
Well, they did the same thing with they did it with Joe. They did, There's only a couple of guys where they said it's them. I think Peyton. I think Peyton was, even out of Tennessee, they knew he was superhuman. Right? They're still talking about Arch Manning, and he hasn't played it down.
Yeah, he's the backup at Texas.
Right. So anyway, he'll start next year. We'll see how good he actually is.
Well, and you know what? And we'll get into this, and this will be.
Well, didn't they say that Purdy's brother is actually a better athlete than he is?
Yes. Which,
although their whole family is full of athletes, is what I hear.
Well, we'll get
his dad was one, his mom was one. Anyway,
this is one I want Rob included on because it is. I talked to him a little bit, and did actually, how good honestly are NFL coaches? Because I think partly why we fall in love with Josh Allen is Josh Allen makes it much easier on you as a coach. There's less. You have to be less creative. You need less pieces. You can be a worse coach, and he can bail you out a lot. Purdy and that kind of prototypical QB. You have to have a really good offense. You have to really have good reads. Like, it has to be a rhythm-based offense. Josh Allen doesn't need rhythm. He just needs his arm. So there's that. Okay, yeah. What's our?
Well, sometimes that makes the match work, though, too. Right. Like, let's just say I have a stereotypical pro offense where I need you between the tackles most of the time.
Right.
I don't want Cam Newton. I love Cam. Why? Because when he gets outside the pocket, it's like a tight end running down the field, right? And he can still fling it 70 yards in the air.
Right.
But if my offense doesn't fit Cam doesn't look good.
Right.
And he's still an all-pro athlete, right? And now, on the other hand, if I'm Kelly, the college guy, right?
Chip Kelly?
Chip Kelly, right? Where I'm throwing it 75 different directions, right? There's some quarterbacks that I would get that would make it really, really hard to run that offense. So here's the question: if I end up like I've got the number 1 draft pick this year, and I think the guy from USC is it, right? And I draft him, and I don't even know if he's a pocket quarterback, if he's a runner, whatever he is. Do I now tailor my offense to him? Or do I try to? Now, John Payton would tell you, I gotta have an athlete that I can put in my offense. I'm not going to put my offense for Russ. I'm not going to do it.
Yep.
If he doesn't do what I tell him, I'm going to yell at him on the sideline like he's a 12-year-old, which I just thought was so unprofessional. I can't even begin to say how stupid that looked, right? And Russ just stood there and took it, right?
He's never said anything remotely negative even about Peyton, which is a huge deal.
Anyway,
says a lot.
So I think that's a legitimate question. Like if you look at college, right, and now I've got LeBron, I have a different offense.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I have a different offense. If I've got KD, I got a different offense. If I've got Steph Curry, I'm like, I need another 3-point athlete so that I can go on either side of this thing and just fill it up. I don't want Shaq.
Nope. Well, I don't even necessarily want LeBron.
In the NFL, I think you get the same challenge, right? So now, let's say, who's got the number 1 pick? Did you say Chicago?
Yeah.
So let's say I'm not Chicago. I'm somebody else. I'm who needs a QB badly?
A lot of teams. Carolina, Atlanta, even Minnesota. There's some discussion of presence.
So let's just say I'm Carolina, or I'm Atlanta, right out of Atlanta, and I take that kid from USC. Do I have anybody even to throw to? Do I have, or have I been a run? Okay, so I'm Carolina, and I've got an ace running back and an offensive line that can move people off the ball, and now I draft a drop back quarterback.
Right.
Now everything's got to be play action probably instead of just drop back 5 yards and gun it, right? See what I'm saying? So I think it's more complicated than I got Josh Allen. Now I've got to figure out how do I maximize Josh Allen. And here's the thing, can I? Am I that good or not?
I think actually that is the question. Personal opinion, from a lot of watching people who know film and following a lot of people who know film, the average NFL coach is actually not nearly as good as they probably should be. And it's an interesting discussion.
So take that down a notch. I am Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. I get to recruit probably anybody I want.
Pretty much.
Right, maybe the top two. I gotta try to convince those kids to come to Michigan. It's 30 below, and they'd rather play in Florida.
Real quick, he's done a good job, especially switching to such a good defense, because you don't need as many studs.
Yeah,
that is
like
you
said,
defense.
And what did you say? They modeled it to stop Ohio State, right?
Correct.
But my point is, I get to go get my athletes. I don't necessarily have to change my scheme.
Or in the NFL, you draft and now you're stuck with them.
Exactly.
And
you went with the best quarterback you had, and he's not really the best fit, but right. I mean, I'll give you an example. So here are the Cardinals.
Yep.
Was really Kyler the right guy for the guy that drafted him, the first group?
Cliff Kingsbury, yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't know Cliff from walking by him on the street, right?
He actually got the job because of Kyler, because he ran that spread whatever offense at Texas Tech. Although
it's
he
almost
got
like
fired.
Kelly, right? Like Chip Kelly gig, right? You go to the NFL, you try the spread shit, and it doesn't fly.
Well, he also tried to have grown men run 70, 80 plays as fast as physically possible. It was like
I didn't want to go there, but yeah.
What did you think was going to happen? They're not college kids.
No.
It was weird. It was because he came to the Niners and was not good.
Yeah, Chip did that was dumb. But my point being, right, in the NFL, you might have to, okay, I need a different OC.
Right.
Because if I'm relying on my OC and the guys up in the booth, right, I do have to rely on those guys a lot, right? Yes, I'm Shanahan, I got my scripted plays, I'm Bill Walsh, I'm Belichick, whoever, right?
Well, you'll notice.
But if I don't have Brady goes down, now I got a guy who can't do what Brady can do. Now
see, I have a theory. Because if you watch the evolution of Kyle, started with Washington, RG3 goes down, goes to Atlanta, has Matt Ryan, goes to the Niners.
All over the field, right?
He has slowly shifted to, I'm gonna build my offense where I don't need Brady. I don't need Josh Allen. Very run heavy, very play action based, defensive, very conservative. I think it cost him in the Super Bowl, but I also don't know if Jimmy would have made the throw regardless. Purdy is, to me, the X factor because he got the timing, he got the brain power, but he also got a little bit of shifty off-schedule gunslinger, which he needs.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
But
what was the one that he actually threw a touchdown pass and Shan?
It was against Seattle.
That wasn't even the right throw?
Correct, because it was actually a check down. He wasn't in the progression because of how far back the linebackers were. Purdy literally threw the guy open. But Kyle has avoided that exact QB because of and we've seen it from Purdy, these interceptions. That is the Favre downside, and Kyle hates it. He just wants you to run his damn play. Do what I tell you. The play's going to work.
hey, Sean Payton, obviously, look, I'm not even taking sides with him and Russ, because Sean Payton has as much success as Russ Wilson.
Yeah. I mean, people forget Breeze was let go for a song from San Diego at the time, and he had a great career with Sean Payton. And that, to me, what will be fun about this discussion is I don't think it's an either or. I think it has to be an and. You both have to be on the same page for you to win a Super Bowl. It's why I don't think McCarthy fits with Dak, is because I don't think they're in sync. I think there's a problem there. I couldn't tell you what it was, but I think he's hit his ceiling. So
we would have to watch a lot of film of Dak to see, hey, is his progressions the right progressions? To your point, is he going 1 to 3 and miss 2? That whole.
Well, part of it,
does he freak out? Does he get busy?
A little bit of the problem with Dallas is the same thing I've talked about with Eagles. There's a lot of very vanilla plays that are from like 10 years ago that they then run over and over and over and over again. Big surprise when the defense has had time. Now interceptions and issues start happening. I know, novel concept, but I think that's a great one. Just like, because I didn't know this as an average fan, is how much football is truly at its heart a team game. We give quarterbacks so much credit when, yes, they deserve a lot of credit. I'm not saying Brady isn't the best, one of the best ever because of being Brady, but there are so many other elements that go into being able to build a dynasty, be able to, make 10 Super Bowls or whatever ridiculous number Brady has been to. And I think the average fan just, looks at the QB, sees he throws a pick and goes, well, this quarterback sucks. It's like, well, there's a lot of other elements that go into that pick than you even realize. So I can't wait to bring Robbie into that discussion because there's a couple good ones. He even did the one that I can't wait to talk to him about, which is coach develops players, then gets a lot of talent, or coach inherits a lot of talent, struggles to develop. Like coaches who aren't good at developing talent, or even one I want to talk to him about is, Dungy and Gruden. Dungy did a great job but could never get over the hump, but then Gruden did nothing with it after one Super Bowl win. It's a really interesting, dichotomy. So Rob will probably join us next week. I got some work to do to figure out this stupid collab cam. We only had one failure, thank God, but I don't quite understand why that's happening. You got a quote for us today?
I do. This is we were talking about running backs. This is Walter Payton. When you're good at something, you'll tell everyone. When you're good at something, you'll tell everyone. When you're great at something, they'll tell you.
That's a great quote. I like it a lot.
It is a great quote. It's freaking great. And it's so Walter.
Yeah.
He didn't have to say anything. It reminds me of Barry Sanders just handing the ball to the ref. There's another touchdown to do, right?
It's the toughest guy in the room doesn't have to say anything.
Here's another quote, and I think it was John Maxwell. He said, "Look, if you're the smartest person in the room, you need to be in another room." Talking about, hey, humility, right? You need to go learn something. The day you stop learning is a bad day, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're the smartest person in the room, you need to find another room.
That's really good.
Great. Yeah, it took me a long time to learn that one.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah. That's actually why I love my current gig. People with 20 years experience on my 6.
Well, that's why you switched.
100%.
Yeah.
A little background for me. I'm in the tech industry. As soon as you stay in a job for 10 years, you might have done some damage to your career. So you got to make sure.
And it's so weird because I was in one place for 43. So
management's a little different. Some people move for challenges, but and actually in a good way, your company went through a lot of changes. So it was kind of like moving jobs.
I didn't have to change. Everything changed around me. Right? My job changed. I didn't even pick my job for the last 10 years. Somebody else picked it for me. So there you go. So yeah, say go Niners. Let's see. Who are we picking? Niners.
Yep.
Picking Baltimore.
Unfortunately. I like Baltimore.
I'll pick Chiefs. I think Chiefs upset Buffalo.
Listen, I did too. My head says Chiefs. My heart wants Bills. And then I think we both said Tampa too, because I just don't.
I'm so sorry, Lions. My heart says Lions for your cousin, right?
Same.
For Gary, right? But I think the wild card there is the QB.
Correct.
Yeah. Look.
Now
who shows up.
Lions are at home, and Goff is very well at home, so that's an X factor.
It depends on who shows up, which midfield shows up, right?
Yeah, and he's a huge wild card. He's got a little bit of that Favre in him too. But we'll be here next Friday, all three of us, probably around the same time. I'll have to check with Rob and kind of just make sure. So we might have to be a little flexible.
Well, it'll be around the nap, I'm pretty sure, and not Rob's nap.
Oh yeah, which means we might be a little earlier in the day, which that's fine. I mean, that's easy.
Hopefully my bookcase is well done by then.
But yeah, we'll see. We got a really honestly great weekend of football, so I'm excited. Listen, if the Niners I don't see them losing, but if they lose, it'll be an interesting one to talk about for how Packers pulled that off, because that's a big upset. So we'll see. With that, we're going to call it a show. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be here next week. We'll have a little bit more football before the drought until the draft. So
we'll start following hockey or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I would like to.
Us and all our friends in Canada.
Anyway.
All right, man. All right. Have a great day.
All right. Peace out, everybody.